This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Help from 1965, directed by Richard Lester. This might drive some LaserDisc aficionados crazy because we are skipping over some movies that we could talk about because they are later on in the Criterion Creeps collection proper, but they also appear here now in the Criterion LaserDisc order. But you know, Help, it has no release yet, and the only reason I'd even consider it is because Magnificent Ambersons kind of fucked it up, because when we did that episode, it wasn't out on Blu-ray, which actually was this very week. So instead of talking about Lola Montez and The Graduate, here we are. We made some executive decisions. RJ didn't care, listener Oliver didn't care, so I was like, fine, here we are. We'll talk about Help. Everyone loves the Beatles, right?
I gotta say, I think we made the right call, because I think the LaserDisc series should be LaserDisc only. And I realize that there's like movies we've covered that are also in the LaserDisc. I don't think those count. And I think Magnificent Amberson being added after the fact, I don't think that counts either. So if Help gets added to the Criterion in like 2 months, whatever.
Yeah, we apparently made it happen if that happens.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time. We do a lot of things on this podcast. But yeah, I think we're doing the right thing. So
if you're listening to the Criterion LaserDisc playlist, that's why. I am sorry. Hey, what's the tagline of this film, RJ?
Help?
Stop worrying. Help is on the way.
Oh.
And the synopsis of this film: musical comedy adventure starring the Beatles about an obscure Asian cult that believes in human sacrifice as they pursue Ringo after he accidentally put on their victim ceremonial ring. He is pursued by the cult, a pair of mad scientists, a member of a side cult that no longer believes in human sacrifice, and the London police who are trying to help. So, RJ, how do you feel about the Beatles?
I thought you might ask that. I'm going to be completely honest. I got nothing to lose. I think the Beatles are fine. We were more of a Beach Boys family, more and an Elvis family ourselves. That's who my dad listened to. He liked the Beach Boys and Elvis, which I hold are pretty high quality musicians. People don't give the Beach Boys as much credit as they deserve. It wasn't all that surfer stuff.
Beach Boys get plenty of love. Those Beach Boys and Beatles, they were like in the Rolling Stones. Those three were all like in hot competition, trying to like make the best album ever for like years.
Yeah, but the Rolling Stones suck though.
Okay, see, there goes your credibility.
Yeah, see, go listen to that Gimme Shelter episode.
I know.
you can hear why they're very overrated.
Hey, where's the Beach Boys film in the Criterion Collection?
Wait till that John Cusack movie gets added.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that once. Anyways, so we were more of a Beach Boys family, but I mean, I know the Beatles. I like the Beatles. They got good stuff. I think a lot of their music, like, it appeals to younger audiences because it's they got good melody and they got good rhythm and it's catchy stuff. But then when you get older, you pull more from it, and then you have people who are like, oh man, there's like so much like layers in this stuff, and you get those dudes too that are like too into the Beatles, and you're like, all right, settle down a little bit. And I think I've seen a lot of those people. I think there's a lot of Beatles fans who, I say this all the time, but it's true. It's kind of like Fight Club fans, where it's like it's the same kind of like fanboy like passion for the band or like for something, which it's like, yeah, that's great. I love that you loved something so much, but at the same time, your enjoyment of this and your obsession over it brings the quality of that thing down for me. Fight Club fans ruined Fight Club for me. Same with Scarface fans. And not as much because I still enjoy the Beatles, but Beatles fans are pretty close. They're pretty fucking close on there, where it's like, hey, settle down. You're ruining it for everyone. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I don't entirely disagree with what you're saying. So my experience with the Beatles was, I guess, like my mom's kind of like, I was a passing fan of the Beatles. She'd be like, oh yeah, they're pretty good. I guess my aunt, who's my mom's older sister, she like was like totally the perfect age to be like a super Psycho fan. like that. It seemed like whatever hysteria descended this Beatlemania.
Mhm.
Like that was a real thing. But I'll never understand that. But I mean, it's just like I don't know. Beatles are like I like them. I've got a good handful of their key albums. I like that White Album.
What about that Red album?
Like one.
Yeah.
See, I got that when that re-release came out. I got that for Christmas the one year, and then I want to say I got that also that Elvis one album. So I listen to those often. Those were my introductions to that 50s and 60s sound.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I like the Beatles fine. When I listen to like when they're like their big pop number one songs come on, they're incredibly
Mhm.
catchy, and there's a reason why they've like lasted and tested the like time. Like they're just continuous. Um,
Sure.
so that being said, I'd never seen Help before. Uh,
Wait, let me stop you for a second. Have you seen any of these Beatle movies?
yes, I have seen Hard Day's Night.
Okay.
That's the only one I've seen. I've never seen Yellow Submarine.
Mhm.
I've never seen Let It Be, which is like I think more of a, I don't even know, a concert film.
Mhm.
There might be another one, but who cares? But I have seen Hard Day's Night, and I never like. It's one of those movies that like it's on so many lists, like great film
Mhm.
lists, great concert film lists, and stuff like that. And I've always like, I only ever seen it once, and I was like, I just can't justify buying this thing. Like I could
Mhm.
never like. I'm just like, I like the Beatles fine in audio form, but like in video, I'm like, I just can't do it. And Yellow Submarine, I have like no interest in it.
Do you know why?
Because
I can answer that for you. Do you know why?
I'm not a drug addict or butthead or like into that
Mm.
man.
Yeah, exactly. You're not like a shrooms head, and you're not one of those toxic Beatles fans that's like, Yellow Submarine is like the most amazing track of all time, man.
Yeah,
It's a lot of those types.
yeah. I'm the square. I'd be on the square side of the Beatles
Mhm.
fans. But we'll get into that. So yeah, Beatles, I'm like fine with. Going into Help, I was kind of like, oh, cool. This should be like whatever, a fine
Mhm.
piece of 60s kitsch stuff.
Yeah.
And it basically was that, but holy shit, RJ, this is awful.
Wow. Why don't you hit me with some real talk?
Yeah, I hated this more than
Nice.
I could ever expect to dislike a movie.
Wow.
Any film in the Criterion Collection that we've watched, Laserdisc or proper.
This
I
is your low point out of anything?
it's like this and Chasing Amy, man.
Wow.
I would have to put this like a little bit above maybe Chasing Amy, but because that movie just makes me angry. This one I just like this just sucks. Like I am not it's not funny. There's like these like
Mhm.
musical interludes that are like I guess the best part because it's just the music, but I don't
Mhm.
need to like watch this thing. It's because it's like not even good music videos. Like some of the camera work and like lighting is so bad at times where you're just like, why is this shot this way? Why is this out of the focus? Anyway, so yeah, th-
Mhm.
I this is just not funny. And like there is nothing worse than like a straight up unfunny comedy, and that's what this is. The music. I was kind of reading about this on Wikipedia just because I'm like, well, I better find something to talk about because I'm just gonna fucking like not give a crap about this because I didn't like it one bit.
Mhm.
Um, it's like there's like this whole like comedy strain in the UK. It's like the Goon Show is what it was called, with like
Okay.
Peter Seller and stuff like that. And that's what this was just doing. Like it's like that British slapstick humor that
Mhm. Mhm.
like a decade like within about 5-10 years you get like Monty Python, which like is a little bit more on the cerebral side and is also like arguably not aged well for many, and like some people never got into it whatsoever. And there's parts of like the Monty Python bits that are like not great, but at least like there's things in it that are like pretty great because I don't know, it's still pretty smart stuff. This though, man, this is just fucking dumb as shit. Like I so anyway, and oh yeah, the number one, the Beatles are fucking horrible actors. Like
Yeah, sure.
they're bad. The best
Yeah.
actor among them is Ringo Starr, who's actually one of the most ugly men like, ever. Like he's oh,
Mhm.
He's so ugly. George Harrison plays creepy Uncle Spock, he's like barely in this. Like, I don't think he wanted to be anywhere near this crap, which is funny because he winds up becoming this film producer of handmade films and producing like Time Bandits and like Jodorowsky stuff and like getting involved in all these other things. Like, he does good work, and he has like, and I'd say he probably has the best overall solo career, mostly because he didn't get shot either. And so,
well, he's dead though.
That's what I mean. But he's dead now. But I mean, he got more legs than John Lennon did, and Paul McCartney, no thanks. So yeah, this looks like crap for the most part. There's like the only thing I think that I'll ever remember about Help is the bit where they get out of their car after being on tour, wherever the fuck they're doing, and they're walking into their townhouse. And they go in 4 separate doors, and they go in, and on the other side, it's just one gigantic house. And it's a very like stylish 60s goofy house. And Paul McCartney sits down in front of a piano with some DC comics laid out in front of him. And John Lennon starts reading a bunch of books, the same books on himself. And then Ringo's got this ring on his finger, and he goes to get a sandwich, and this woman's on the other side trying to bite his finger off to get this ring, because there's a plot, RJ. There's a plot about like this, like, I don't know, I call this like, this would be like a racist depiction of like, I don't know, Asian people, of like Indian Asian people.
I got one for you. Keep going.
Okay. And like, usually I'd probably watch this type of movie, and it would be like, oh, a James Bond movie. Who cares? Like, this is like stuff that people get upset about. And this is just like, this is just shit, lazy humor. And it turns into just like a James Bond spoof. And hot take here, folks. I don't like James Bond movies very much. I think they're amongst the most they're like Beatles for other people. They're like Fight Club, where it's like overhyped, like stuff where like dads are really into it, and then people like, I want to be like a dad, and I'm going to really like James Bond too. But those movies, for the most part, are not very good. And this is like a parody of that. So it's like, oh, good, an unfunny comedy on like a spy spoof, and it's like, this was never going to ever win me over, ever.
Good.
Yeah, and here, so I don't know. This is like another piece of like artless cash-in bullshit. Because the Beatles are popular. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, RJ. They're a pretty popular act in their heyday.
Allegedly.
Yeah, they sold a couple albums, and people would just probably go to theaters and watch anything with them. And this is exactly what this felt like. The Wikipedia entry on this, RJ, will tell you in no uncertain terms, between this and the Beatles anthology, which you probably never watched, but I got to watch as it played on ABC back in the day. It was like a 10-hour long documentary about the history of the Beatles. That like the Beatles were all on drugs. They were all on the marijuana making this movie. They were so high, and they're so high, RJ. They're on drugs, flying to the Bahamas. Isn't that crazy? Because like when this information was coming out, it was like edgy to talk about this and like be like, this is a talking point that I noticed even in Letterboxd reviews. People like, oh man, they're so high when they were making this, and I'm like, oh, that's good. That makes for a great movie. No, it doesn't.
Good.
RJ, what did you think of Help?
Jarrett, I have to say that I am surprised by your reaction, your response to this movie. I mean, I can't say that I thought you would love this thing, but I didn't think you would be as negative as you are. That said, I thought Help was kind of fun for the most part. So here's my rub, Jarrett. I think the first 30 minutes is actually really entertaining, and I liked it quite a bit, and I'll explain to you why. And then I think that the next hour, because it's not a long movie, it's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
There's 30 minutes I think is actually pretty good. The next 60 minutes turns into the stuff that I think you don't like, where it's very like, it's long drawn out music videos, and it really loses its steam, where I feel like they start with a story and they build up to it a little bit, and then they're like, we're not ready to end it yet. Let's just kind of like go on a little bit more. And it's like, all right, do we have anything to talk about? And some guys like, probably, nah, Not really. It's like, all right, well, just film whatever. But I actually do enjoy the first 30 minutes. And here's why, Jared. I really like the quirky, stylistic stuff that they do in this movie. There's a lot of set and production things that I like. Like, as you said, when they walk into the townhouse doors and it's the same. I thought that was super neat. And then I think that, like, that scene that unfolds for the next 5 minutes, there's a lot of stuff I like, where Paul McCartney is on like a piano that gets raised through an elevator while he's reading comic books. John Lennon's in this like weird step down nook in the middle of the floor. They have all these vending machines around. I was like, hey, it's so quirky. It's so much fun. Look how much fun they're having, Jarrett. Because I think it's kind of self-aware, but also self-referential, where it's making fun of it itself. Where when they go into the townhouses, the people are like, oh, look at them. They're like, they're no different from before they were famous, such down-to-earth guys. And then I think it's George Harrison goes in his room and he like yells at that guy. He's like, do it now. He doesn't say that, but like it's implied. And there's a guy who like winds up those chattering teeth, and the chattering teeth just start like cutting the carpet. And I was like, oh, bizarre. So quirky, Jarrett. But I actually kind of liked it. At the start, you get the Satanists who are like, or like the pagans, whatever you would want to, whatever they're called in this movie.
Holly cult. They're like the thuggy cult, like in Temple of Doom.
Sure. So the Satanists, Jarrett, you get their intro and they have a botched sacrifice, and that's fine. That's not like anything special. But I actually kind of like the intro there where they're like, why didn't our sacrifice work? And then it cuts to like a music video of the Beatles. And I think there's something kind of like super funny about Satanists watching music videos to me, that I just really like that idea. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Look how much fun this is, Jared. Are you having fun yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you having? So anyways, I liked that. And then I think it does get into like kind of ridiculous slapstick humor. There's a lot of that. Like not even like Benny Hill, Monty Python stuff. There's some stuff. There are a few gags that go even beyond that. But there were a few that I actually really liked. So first is when they explain how there were 5 attempts to steal the ring, and it kind of breaks it down where it's like 1, and it's like a title card where it goes 1 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
There's the one that I really like where Ringo is mailing some letters, and he puts his hand in the mailbox, and there is a Satanist, paganist, thuggy, whatever, in the mailbox, and he tries to steal the ring. And my mind went immediately to Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, when he is tracking down the Super Bowl rings of the Miami Dolphins, and he is in the mailbox. And that was always one of my favorite gags as a little kid. And I was like, hey, I wonder if that gag from Ace Ventura might be from this movie Help. It's possible. Maybe it's from something else. I don't know. But I liked it. I also liked when they go to dry their hands and the hand dryers are in reverse and they're like super vacuums, and it's sucking all the sleeves off of people. I kind of thought it was funny that it was just sleeves that were getting sucked off, even when they're not close to it. I was like, I like that. It's funny stuff, Jared. Hey, Jared, are you having fun yet? Anyways, I liked when they got sawed through the floor. I thought that was pretty fun. This movie is actually like kind of super racist to the Orientals, quote unquote, where when they're like trying to get the ring off, and it's like they went to the closest Oriental. I got a screen grab of that. Maybe I'll put it out on the internet. I was like, whoa, some pretty rough stuff here, Beatles. This movie has some awesome product placement. There is a pretty sick V8 juice ad in this thing. I don't know why it's there, but there's a lot of it. What else are we talking about? We got some bagpipe assassins. I think those guys are pretty cool. Where they're like playing bagpipes, and then out of nowhere, like steam and like red liquid comes out of the bagpipes. I was like, I like that. I like bagpipe assassins. That's pretty neat. You get a Zeppelin stunt, which seems less than efficient. I don't really know why they thought that was going to work. Even in this slapstick world, it's like, it's not a funny gag. I don't think it's dated. I don't think it was funny at the time. Just kind of like, whatever. And that's the same with like when there's the stunts where it's like the stuntman in the trunk. It's like, it doesn't really make sense. Are the Beatles that quirky that he like opens the trunk and he's like, oh, hey. And instead of getting out of the trunk, then George Harrison like removes the tire. And it's like, are they that quirky and like laid back that he's like, I'm not going to get out of the trunk until you take the tire off because we are so much fun. I get what you mean. There's jokes like that where even when I was watching it, I was like, nah, I'm not super interested in this. And so I like the first 30 minutes. I kind of like the setup with those cool sets and like some of the jokes they do, but then it does lose me. I don't like all of the slapstick jokes where it's the stuff that just doesn't really, it's like, I don't know if this would have played in the 60s. It doesn't play now, where it's like, why are they doing that? Why are they doing this? That's really elaborate for no reason. But I don't know. There are a few things that I thought was funny, like when Ringo is doing karate and he's like facing no one and he's just like, huh, 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 and he's like hitting the air. I thought that was really funny. I don't know if that was supposed to be funny, but I liked it. I also liked their disguises. And John Lennon is disguised as like a dirty hobo, and he's got a huge beard and like moon glasses. And I was like, oh shit! So that's where that look came from. They like dressed him up as a dirty hobo, and he's like, hey, I like this. That's a good look. But I didn't think you would hate it. I thought it was kind of fun and quirky, but for half an hour. Not an hour, not 90 minutes.
Oh man,
30 minutes. 30 minutes was fine. 90 minutes. After 30 minutes, it turns into there's a lot of really long, drawn out scenes, and then music video, and then long, drawn out scenes, and then music video.
And then they're in a field and being shelled forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like, I don't know. It does after 30 minutes, there's not much there. So I agree with you. I didn't hate it. I didn't even dislike it. I thought it was fine. But I do think it's 30 minutes, awesome. Stop watching there. The rest of the 60 minutes, it's just like, just watch a music video. You'll be fine. And then everything else in between is irrelevant. I will say though that the most upsetting thing I saw in this movie was seeing all the Beatles in jeans, like denim jeans. Oh, yeah. It was really unsettling for me because it was like, these guys shouldn't be wearing jeans.
They're just hanging out. They're just a couple of guys.
Just a couple dudes in their denim jeans, baby.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I'm glad you liked it. I know you're excited for this to be added to the Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
Proper. One day. So anyways, I didn't dislike it as much as you. I thought it was fine, but I do see why it would lose a lot of people. It loses steam really fast because, like I said, 30 minutes I was on board. And then right after like 30 minutes, I was like, I'm not as interested in this anymore. Because they run out of places to go. It's very quirky. It's very slapstick. Some of the jokes I thought were really funny, but a lot of them don't land at the same time. So what are you going to do? That's comedy, man. That's why we do this show. Comedy is weird.
Yeah, it's the worst sometimes.
It can be.
Yeah, so I mean, I had to follow this up with a film where it's about like a beetle being killed to make myself feel better. So I watched Chapter 27. This is now kind of, I guess it was a controversial film when it came out back in 2007. Do you remember this one, RJ?
Not at all. Oh wait, is that the fat Jared Leto movie?
Yeah, where he plays Mark Chapman, the guy who killed John Lennon. Yeah, I watched that. It had been on. I had a digital file of this on my PS3 from like ages ago, when I was like on a true crime kick, and I'm like, oh, I should watch that. This is a real sad bastard movie. And I just never did. And then it popped into my mind this week, and I went, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to watch that, because I guarantee that, as like not good as that movie probably is, it's way better than Help. And it was, even though it wasn't that good, just like I predicted. So this movie, it's legendary for the fact that it was made, and a lot of people, they really hold that John Lennon up in reverie, like how great of a human being he.
Oh yes.
And the fact that someone killed him, they just like, why are you glorifying this crime? They have no problem with like the rest of like all of true crime genre, but this one they don't like. So the guy who made this, this is the only film he's made at this point, the only film he's written at this point. It's based on a book where the guy interviewed Mark Chapman, who's in jail, obviously still, is never getting out. And Jared Leto plays Mark Chapman. And one thing to note is Mark Chapman was a big, doughy, fat, nerdy looking guy. And Jared Leto isn't exactly that, but Jared Leto didn't let that stop him.
He tried, didn't he?
As Wikipedia lets us know, he would eat a liter of microwaved ice cream with olive oil and like soy every night. He gained 67 pounds for the role. Apparently he got gout as a result. Nice. And apparently he needed like a wheelchair to get around, which is bizarre. But I guess it's like when a person actually gains weight, they actually are also gaining the musculature to carry that said weight around. They get the frame of it, which is like kind of why Jared Leto looks really weird in this, because he just looks like a guy who's like gained a bunch of weight weirdly. And they make sure there's like lots of money shots of his like gut. And they always like making sure it's like, see, that's a guy's real gut. Jared Leto really did this. He's so method. He's like the real method man. So yeah, this tells the story of Mark Chapman, this like weirdo who whose goal, his big goal was, I'm gonna kill John Lennon. And you get to watch him set out and do that. It's like kind of set in December 1980, right around Christmas, so it's very seasonal. Lindsay Lohan shows up in this. She's a fan also of John Lennon, her character. This is like a very unsympathetic look at Mark Chapman just being a like fucking weirdo, and like there's no redeeming qualities, there's no like anything to root for about this guy, which is good, I guess. So it's like kind of like not a fan favorite film, I'm sure, because like, I mean, it doesn't give him any light or like cut him any slack. It's like, well, he was mentally ill. Doesn't do that. It doesn't allow for it. It just tells the story as it is. Now, whether or not this story needs to be told, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. But Jared Leto, I got to laugh as he like heavily breathed through scenes and shuffled around. Looked a lot like some people I see at a comic book store I work at. There's a physical type. He achieves that, and I see a lot of people on Letterboxd doing a lot of fat shaming, talking about this type of people and greasy, creepy dudes everywhere, and like it's like, oh, these people are so mean. Yeah, maybe they deserve it if they're all Mark Chapmans on the inside. I don't know. Maybe they're all just waiting for that opportunity to fly to New York and kill somebody there too. I don't know.
Oh, Jared Duncan, maybe they deserved it.
What?
That's what you said. Maybe they deserved it.
Maybe they deserve this scorn.
Well, you heard it here first. Jared hates most of the people in the world.
Most of the people. That's true. I mean, I'm the only person who probably really hates this movie. There's a few people who agree. Most of the people I follow, they all are into this movie. They seem to like it.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
Man, oh man. So yeah, man. I have not much to say about Help. I'm not in a position to have to defend this film. I'm on the offense. This movie, yeah, it's not funny. It's a real relic of its time, but that doesn't I have to like it or forgive it. This was painful. I never have to watch it again.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to moving past this thing.
I think that's fine, man. I talked about it. I gave it I highlighted some positives. I think you're in the clear.
Yeah.
Yep. I think you are in the clear.
Okay. Excellent. Well, RJ, I'm going to talk a little bit about the people who hate this film.
That hate it?
Hate it. Rightfully so.
Sure.
Sha Wajing,
Okay.
half a star. Utter crap.
Well, I mean, they don't have horrible taste, but it is pretty basic.
Yeah.
Seven Samurai, Empire Strikes Back, Spirited Away, and Pulp Fiction. So that's a Starbucks and UGG boots kind of like there. Ooh, they gave 5 stars to Qui-Gon. No,
Whoa.
thank you. Oh, 5 stars to The Room. They're ironic. Look how much fun they have.
So I got here David Pierce with a lengthy one, and I think it covers the bases for me. 1.5 star. Now see what you've done with your filthy Eastern ways. I feel the Beatles themselves are their greatest downfall in this film. None of them are incredible actors, nor do any of them seem interested in acting. So as a result, the only interesting element of this film is shoved to the background in favor of a very flimsy and racially uncomfortable story involving human sacrifice and Eastern religion. It's obvious that after a hard day's night, Richard Lester quickly discovered, as did everyone else, that Ringo is the only mildly talented actor of the bunch. While he can act to a certain degree, it doesn't make up for his awful comedic timing and charisma on screen. This means that Ringo is simultaneously shoved to the front of the film, being the one character that's actually involved in the Eastern plot, yet somehow dragged to the back in favor of showing off the other members of the band. I got this impression that the film would have been a lot more focused if it didn't just feature the other 3 Beatles, but more importantly, I got this impression that the other 3 didn't really want to be there. George Harrison was just barely present, with John and Paul constantly being pushed in front of him, despite them both being rather awkward on screen. Paul and John were given all of the cute one-liners and didn't contribute much else to the film, which is a lot more than the nothing George brought. Ultimately, the story felt extremely segmented, each change in location feeling like a completely different story, which only added to how much this film felt like a compilation of a holiday album. The worst offender of this is during the Another Girl music video, which featured non-introduced characters, the Beatles dressed in casual clothing, and there were plentiful of locations that bear no relevance later on. All of the music videos were by far the most entertaining sequences of the film, but none of them bared any relevance to the plot. Despite its title and quirky cover, the Help album was just another collection of love songs. This means that cutting between this and James Bond parody film, we had these romantic songs, despite the film featuring no kind of romantic plotline. People are way too forgiving of this film just because it stars the members of a popular band. This movie was only produced to capitalize on the ever-growing success of everything this boy band touched, and it really shows in the worst way. At the most, I would argue that it's interesting to see some of the band's first interactions with South Asian culture, an area that greatly influenced their music around the middle of their career during the release of this film. But beyond this, I feel this film is completely pointless.
Well, I mean, all film is pointless.
Yeah.
No, I mostly like, he's got good points.
Yeah.
Got good points, Jarrett. And like, I think I agree when he says that if people really like this movie, it is probably because of bias towards your opinion on the band. But like I said, I think the Beatles are fine. I thought this movie was fine.
I probably like the Beatles more than you, and I think this movie is just garbage. So I don't know.
So it's not total. Well, I don't know. Anyways, David Pierce seems like one of our dudes.
Yeah.
Only about 15 5-star movies. Most of them are Criterion. One of their favorite movies is one of our favorite movies, The Passion of Joan of Arc. A couple Hitchcock films, Citizen Kane, Bicycle Thieves. That seems really popular now with people. Thin Red Line. So David Pierce, I think, is probably one of our dudes.
Cool. Well, maybe he should have a podcast. And then one more, Mr. Otis, 2 stars. Apart from the soundtrack and a few funny jokes, it's shit.
It sounds like a Jarrett review. Oh, Mr. Otis just gave Sausage Party 3 stars. That is a half-star movie at best. It seems like they're just starting their Letterboxd profile, or they don't rate stuff very often, but they only have a few 5-star movies. 2 of them are Shrek, and Wolf of Wall Street, Catch Me If You Can, just Leo movies. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think they just started on here.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's shit.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yep. Outstanding. After the break, RJ and I are going to get Beatles haircuts and be real garbage buckets.
You already have one of those, you bowl cut freak.